And I listen to and I listen to y'all cause when y'all talk about me, and I was like, I wasn't like that. But at the same token, I'm still full of energy because of my diet. I say that to say because my coming up, I used to tell all my friends, man, quit eating that shit, man. It's gonna slow you down. Quit eating that shit. We be at the court. I play basketball all day, never tired. They like, man, you must be on drugs. No, I'm full of energy. And I'm going back to yourself on what you were talking about religion.
Mhm.
As you look at people put a belief on because they like this type of meat, so they're willing to pay more. That's their belief that this tastes better than that. You see what I mean?
Yeah, like kosher and stuff. So like currently
So
I'm in camp, like on campus at U of M, and we have to actually have like Lent's getting ready to come up, so we have to make sure that we're keeping that in mind with food, you know what I mean? And of course it's U of M, so we absolutely, they push like healthier options and stuff, which I think is great. The younger generation is really what you're about, sir. They are they're putting good food into their bodies, and they're recognizing that their bodies are like a temple, and we have to honor ourselves and respect ourselves and eat well and take care of ourselves.
come here.
Okay, with that being said, that was a great conversation. With that being said, we want to talk about harm reduction. Like, Roy,
Give
you
it
know
up.
anybody that's actually, well, we're gonna talk about harm reduction, to say the
Hey,
least.
I'm gonna click out for a minute. I got a call. I got to take.
All right. Well, we're gonna get into harm reduction, as in, like you're saying, this is comparable to wearing a seatbelt, something, things
Can
of
I
that
ask a
nature.
question?
Okay, go
Absolutely.
ahead.
Can you explain what harm reduction is?
I can. Harm reduction is the premise and the understanding that people are going to engage in risky behaviors. They're going to do drugs. They're going to they're going to have sex, and they're going to do things that do not align with like living a great life, right? So our job in harm reduction is to minimize those risks. Like Abdul pointed out, a seatbelt is a form of harm reduction, because like when you get to a car accident, you're keeping yourself safer just by wearing a seatbelt. It's been proven that seatbelts can save lives. Um, like condoms are a form of harm reduction, because people gonna fuck, guys. You know what I mean? Do I need to like censor myself, Abdul? I don't want to
No,
be
no, you
like,
don't have to censor
No,
yourself. And
no.
another question: were you
You want
asking
to talk
for
about
yourself
Catholic
or other
priests
people?
fucking kids? Go right ahead.
We there right now. We at that threshold right now, anyway. So yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
we don't have no filter over here.
please
Go
don't
ahead.
censor yourself.
okay. So
Well,
people
please
can
don't misinform anybody.
I won't. You know I won't.
Yeah.
People gonna fuck. So what are we like? I mean, we want people to do so safely. You know what I mean? And it's basically saying like, okay, people are gonna do drugs, and what we do is we I carry Narcan on me. I've done Narcan instruction classes on how to like reverse an opioid overdose. I hand out safe injection kits, safe smoking kits, and the point of that is like sharing needles can give you hep C. There's all sorts of like really dangerous things that can happen, and then if you reuse the same needle a bunch of times, you get skin caught in it and like stuff, so then you're risking a super bad like septic infections and blood poisoning and stuff. So our job in harm reduction is to keep people alive long enough to make better decisions. And one of the big key things is we understand that remember how back when we were younger they always used to talk about weed's the gateway drug. Weed is not the gateway drug. Trauma is the gateway drug. Like there's a form of it's called the housing first module, where we acknowledge that like homeless people, can y'all imagine being homeless? I don't know about you guys, but I would be getting fucked up. People are like, oh, I don't want to give that man money. He's just gonna spend it on drugs. The fuck do you expect him to spend it on though? He can't even get a job. He doesn't have an ID. He doesn't have a home. You know what I mean? So like um bringing people into a housing situation where you don't discriminate if they use drugs. Actually, there's a program in Ann Arbor called ABLOC. Great program. I kind of think of it as like a science experiment because they're one of the only housing programs in Washington County and in the state of Michigan that do not discriminate if you use drugs. And there is a huge majority of people who have come into those programs as youth substance abuse users. And one thing is that we don't use the term addict. We use substance abuse disorder. So there's people who come in and they're substance users and they get access to these programs. And like while we're giving out like reg kits, safe injection kits, we hey, we talk about recovery with them. We do peer support with them. We level with them, and you have a much higher success of getting treatment program if you come from that stuff. Because I mean, like these are people. It's proven that every year that you are homeless, psychologically aging between 4 to 7 years because
I
of how
don't think
hard
every
you are
homeless person is out on the street doing drugs. Some of the people actually taking that money and getting food or rooms for the night, you know.
Well, I mean, a room is expensive, you know. And a lot of people do get rooms, especially this year. We see a huge increase in shelters because it's too hot. It's too cold for people to safely be out on. We see that a lot more, but
I'm sorry, but I'm hearing whoever in your background more than
I
I
can't
hear you.
hardly hear. Yeah.
anything.
Would that be me? Do y'all hear a TV in the background?
I hear kids.
Okay, hold on. That might be me. Let me go to the quiet plot. I apologize if that's me, y'all.
Yeah, it happens. We got kids. We know, but
Is that better?
yeah, much better.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, y'all. I apologize.
Are you good?
No.
Thank you.
So it's actually more of a systemic problem because like when you talk about like, oh, well, if I give this person money and they're going to go do this or they're going to do that, I mean, like it's not as easy as we make it seem for somebody to just like collect this money and go get a room for the night because rooms are expensive. You know what I mean? A lot of people,
No, I apologize for cutting in. I was just thinking this conversation today as I pulled up to the stop sign with a homeless little young dude. And this is my opinion. I respect anybody or whatever y'all got going on. I said, Kim, for the simple fact, I sold dope, done whatever it takes to make myself be wherever I need to be. You ain't got no grunt in you where you accept that bullshit. That's all I got to say.
You said as a young guy too, right?
Yes, anybody.
Understood.
Look, bro, I look at it like this. Anybody on this planet gonna do whatever they gotta do to get what they want. To get what they want.
and
So
that's fair.
if you want to be in that situation, that's what you want. If the universe ain't giving you shit, I can't give you shit. That's just my opinion.
So,
People-
when you say that, I think of a specific client I had. He was chronic homeless. His parents were homeless. His parents used to take him to Ozone House in Ann Arbor, specifically because they were unable to provide for him. One of his mother was like disabled, and you know, she was in a really bad accident. I can't remember the situation exactly, but you also have like one thing that it's hard to, you know, we were just talking about reality perception earlier, right? So we can't understand someone else's reality. And when these are the circumstances that you're accustomed to and that you're used to, and you don't know a better way, which if we even want to take that a step further, that's kind of why the government created, like, you know, the ghetto and the hood, you know what I mean? Because you're literally entrapping an entire demographic and population into an area. And once you get into that mentality, that hustle mentality, especially because I've been there, bro. Like there was a point in time where I was literally the biggest pill dealer in this area. There was an Oxycontin, a Xanax.
It's been over 7 years, right? We don't want to talk our way into no indictment or nothing. Calm down.
Statute of limitations.
Bag up.
Well, that's years past. They can't get me for that. That's
That's your opinion.
statute of limitation thing. I mean, and I work with the police too a lot with what I do.
I'm sorry.
I can. No, you're
Not
fine.
in that way.
I,
Not in that way.
I
Not in
actually-
that way.
that-
Not in that way.
With the police like she a CI.
No. We went to,
I'm just bullshitting.
We just shitting
we
you,
get
man.
Yeah, I know. So we like, but this is really cool. We actually have a thing with the Michigan State Police where there's several people in our area that can take drugs and get samples of drugs and send them down to Chicago to get tested, which I wish we had a testing machine here because we're an international border out here in Detroit. Why we gotta send our shit all the way to Chicago? You know what I mean? That's bullshit. So that's something Ashley's been working on for a minute now.
So really what they doing is they directing the traffic. So if they say Candyman got the best dope, they directing me.
No. So the reason that we do the testing is because, like, okay, during the pandemic, there was a whole run of what we called purple heroin. It had propamine in it, which is a benzo analog. So remember we were talking earlier about how Xanax and shit is not a opioid, but they were literally making heroin with a specific benzo in it, and it was dropping experienced users. There was one lady I had at one of the programs I worked at, and when this chick came up to me, it was like, yo, I just got some shit and it knocked me on my ass, and I know so and so and so and so got some. You might want to go check on them. I dropped what I was doing and I went and I checked on those people because that was one
Would that be considered the same thing as speedballing?
So speedballing is like uppers, like coke and heroin, coke and pills, right? And that actually has been a big thing. We
just saying like that, wouldn't that basically be like in the same category though? I'm not saying like, you know, uppers versus downers and all that. I'm just saying like mixing the dope.
Yeah, so a little bit. It's cross substance.
They better not never try to sell me that bullshit that I was killing the motherfucking community selling the cocaine.
You know, they put that PP on everything now.
Yeah.
The fentanyl laced coke that we hear about a lot is usually what we call in the business a chemist error. So you have somebody who's selling multiple substances and they're like weighing their shit out or something and they don't adequately clean between weight.
Can you say what they call that again?
ADHD moment, I'm sorry. Cross substance using, is that what you were saying? Or
yeah, basically you said in
y'all field, we call it a chemist error.
Chemist error?
Chemist error.
Like, wow, chemist error. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. It's very rare that you see people actually intentionally selling fentanyl mixed with cocaine. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying it's a lot.
That shit on the weed now, you know. I mean,
yeah, and then like there's a whole thing.
Wait, they doing what with the weed?
They putting fentanyl in weed, man. They putting it in water, stirring it up, and spraying it on the weed.
Yep.
Shut the front door.
For real.
You just heard her say, yeah.
That's black.
Wow.
You got to be careful. Even for the other folks that like to smoke the dope, you got to be careful.
Dude, and like things, this is actually a thing at festivals, like music festivals and stuff.
Yeah, like the,
they doing anything to get a motherfucker hooked on this shit. What the shut the front. I'm glad. Hey, whoa. Eat healthy, y'all. Leave drugs alone.
Hey, this episode right here weighs one of my best in my top 10 right here so far, right now. And it's a purpose to this.
Let her talk about the raves and the festivals. Drug use is going on in that shit.
Absolutely.
We have testing tables that are set up at parties and shit now where you can, without like being judged, without getting in trouble, take your shit. Any good party that you go to, any good concert scene that you go to, any festival, they will have a harm reduction thing. There's actually people who are trained in how to respond to opioid overdoses, how to respond if somebody passes out. Matter of fact, I went to Backwoods and Bonfires out in Detroit earlier this summer, and I'm buying a drink, and the lady says to me, "Oh shit, look at her!" And this girl's over there, her eyes just start rolling up in her head and shit. And like, I did like, and Abdul can testify to this. I don't even think when something like this happens. This man tried to yell at me this past summer.
We're not gonna go there. We're not gonna talk about that. We're not gonna talk about that.
I plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th.
He was so mad at me. He's like,
yeah,
I'm like, fuck you, bro. Sit down.
I had a medical emergency. I'll say that. It wasn't drug related or nothing. It was just a medical thing.
It was too.
Yeah, he had to spray marijuana, y'all.
No,
I
stop. No,
what is that shit called? Absence?
I was see Rick, now you ain't shit either for that though.
Nah,
For
I
real,
ain't,
for real.
man.
Oh,
You know what?
Slice my ass open.
You know what? You know what? I love y'all dearly, but I'm not gonna let y'all get the best of me. Look,
that's right, bro.
look, no, seriously, it was like a metal. It was it don't even matter. Go ahead. What you were saying?
So this girl, she'd probably been out there longer than I had been. We had just got there. I'm getting my drink. And like like it's really important when this kind of shit happens to like be open and upfront. Like emergency services cannot adequately help you if they don't know that you up in there tripping on Molly. You know what I mean? So this girl, like, she's over here like leaning up against something and she just hits the ground. And I like turn around. I had like a bottle of water and I like splash some on my hand and I like start hitting her on the back of the neck with it. And I'm like, yo, sis, you good? Come on, I need you to open your eyes. And I'm like looking at her friends. I'm like, what's her name? You know? And I'm like, hey, lady, I can't remember her name right now, but I'm like, lady, you good? You good? And she finally starts to come to a little bit. And I splashing water on her, and the lady at the drink table brought me some water and some ice to like put on her neck and shit. And I was like, dude, I ain't even up in here judging, but have you done anything, girl? Because like they need to know when they get here so they can help you the way that you need to be helped. And personally for me, especially somebody who works in like healthcare and does harm reduction, at the opioid summit that I recently did, we had this doctor from Wisconsin, this man sit here talking about like what they do and how they handle people. And I'm like, man, that is the biggest problem with getting people to come in and actually get help though. Like if you can't call
most people don't want to admit to being addicts, but you know, I mean, you necessarily blame them. There's a such thing as functioning addicts. So.
Yeah, well, it's not even that, it's the stigma. Okay, I'm gonna tell y'all a story. I had to have a pregnancy terminated back when I first got married to my ex-husband. It was terrible. It dropped too low. It would have killed me to continue to carry it. And I had to go into St. Joe's because I started to get an infection. And already I'm walking into a Catholic hospital and I'm like, well, I had terminated pregnancy, you know, like this is what's going on. I'm starting to, you know, go septic, I think. And automatically right there, the judgment. And I finally started to get some sleep and they're moving me up to the OBGYN floor. And this young residential doctor comes and this chick wakes me up from my sleep. And she's like, well, you had Coke in your system. I'm like, ma'am, that's impossible. I haven't done Coke in years. And I get that you and I have lived very different lives. For you to be about my age and you to be Molly is like ecstasy. It's MDMA to whoever just said. I'm sorry.
Is it a methamphetamine?
No, methamphetamine's a different class. It's an upper, like Adderall is actually amphetamine.
Yeah, it's meth for kids, basically.
So MDMA is kind of like it started off as chemical.
Go ahead with your story. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah. So this lady sit here trying to tell me that I have a drug problem. I'm like, ma'am, I've been in recovery for quite some time. I know I don't have no drug problem. And she's like, well, we're going to get a social worker to come talk to you. I'm like, okay, great. But I'm telling you, there's got to be some mistake. There are certain antibiotics that you can take that will make you test positive for cocaine. Lidocaine is in the cane family. It is a derivative of cocaine. And like when you get a pregnancy terminated, you get like 8 to 10 shots into your cervix of lidocaine. And you know, this lady just keeps pushing it. She keeps kicking my ex-husband out of the room, like looking at this man like he's holding my mouth shut and going like this and just like, look the drugs, bitch. You know, that's not what's happening. And like literally it interfered with my ability to be comfortable getting treatment, because like this lady's sitting here pushing me, telling me that I'm doing stuff that I know I'm not doing. And like my mom had a procedure done and she had to go help my sister, who had also she'd had this eye procedure done a couple months before. So she had some Percocets or something left over. And she's like, look, I know you're going to go get this procedure done. They're going to give you 500 milligram Norcos, and that's probably not going to be enough. So here, take these just in case you need them. And once I started to be in a lot of pain, like you guys, I mean, I couldn't even sit up. Like leaning like this was about as far as I could sit up because I was just in so much pain. Like if I sat up to this point, I was puking. I was in so much pain. So I totally took a couple of them. You know what I mean? I was up front with them. I'm like, dude, that shit hurt. So yes, I took 2 10-milligram Percocets in addition to what they gave me.
Uh-oh.
And
Is
like,
that just me hearing that?
what?
Maybe it's my phone. Shit.
I just keep that Percocet. I'm thinking about Future. Right?
Oh yeah, Future.
Molly Percocet.
Yeah, Molly Percocet. Yeah.
Mhm. And I mean, dude, when I was up at the hospital, I'll put it like every 4 hours, I was getting 4 to 6 milligrams of Dilaudid. And then 4 hours later, they were giving me 30 milligrams of morphine. That's how much pain I was in at the hospital. And like I finally, like the last day that I'm there, this doctor comes in with like the head of OBGYN, and she's like, you know, I wanted to apologize because you've been very adamant this whole time that there had to be some sort of mistake, and we had your blood work and everything from the first day.
Throw that away when you get done with the apple, okay?
And there is, you were absolutely correct. You did not have any cocaine or anything in your system. I'm like, I know. And I was like, you know, and here's the thing. At that point in time, I absolutely could have sued the shit out of them because you've harassed me 4 to 5 times a day. Every time you come in, you're kicking my husband out, looking at him sideways. You know, you're letting it interfere with your treatment of me because you're treating me in a way that is not true. You know what I mean? And like working in healthcare, I knew walking up in there, as soon as I walk in the hospital, we're on a CBC, a complete blood panel, and a CAT panel, and they're gonna know everything that I've done, everything. So there's no point in me lying to them. And like I tried to explain that from day one. I know what you guys are gonna do. I know there's no reason to lie because you're gonna know that I'm lying, you know, and then it takes credibility away from me. And she had to apologize. I'm like, look, I will accept your apology and I will not push this the way that we all know I can because my rights as a patient have been violated at this point. But what I need you to do is go forward and not act like this. Not treat people like this. I came in here because I would have died without this treatment. I was on 3 different IV antibiotics. They were this close to doing an emergency surgery because I had a blood clot that was keeping everything from coming out. And like, they were giving me Pitocin to induce contractions to break it up so they didn't have to do surgery. And like, that was, I was sweating. Like, y'all, at one point I had a male doctor doing a pelvic exam. This man's trying to tell me, I know. I'm like, brother, you ain't never had a cramp before in your life. Please shut the fuck up, do your job before I take my foot out of the stirrup and I start kicking.
I might run and do that.
Yeah, because it's not cool to sit there. And I get you're trying to have a bedside manner, but you don't get to tell a woman who's going through that kind of pain when you don't got a uterus. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't. That's.
He was like, all right, let me just examine the pergina. Okay.
Right.
Stand back. We're going to see the vulva. We're going to see the vulva.
His wife definitely didn't let him examine.
He's gonna shove it here.
Right. I wanted it.
Would y'all prefer a male doctor doing that or a female doctor doing
I
that?
don't care.
Neither.
Situation. First,
She just didn't want a motherfucker trying to be elbow deep in her. That's all.
right.
They need to mind it.
Right. You got to be elbow deep in me, bro. At least know what you're doing and hurry the fuck up because I'm already like I'm covered in sweat. I had to take a shower after that. That was like one of the worst showers of my life because like I'm in agony, but like I was sweating so much from just being in pain. It was horrible. So like I like literally had to tell this residential doctor, I'm like, dude, you can't go forward in your career treating people like this. I came in because I would have died without treatment. And
I thought women like getting treated like shit.
Huh?
That's a whole nother.
You ain't shit for that one.
Yeah, it like there's a stigma that happens in healthcare, even when we know better. And like I'm even guilty of it at times. And like Abdul can confirm this. I'm one of the most understanding, compassionate people that you will probably ever meet. Like I deal with addict or substance abuse users. I even still call them addicts, and I don't like to use that term. And because I've been there.
What term do you use?
Substance abuse disorder, substance abuse user.
Okay, that's the way to church that shit up, huh?
Yeah, especially for this show, which I got one strike against me. So we
I
gonna
mean,
keep
you
it.
can sign up a term, but it's still a piece of shit.
Hey, I'll put a pig in a wig and say that away. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I mean, like this is all I got. Y'all keep just like, okay, shit on it though if you want.
I'm trying to help bring it to life for you, bro.
No.
I mean,
It's cool, and I
cracky
appreciate
joke.
that
I mean,
too.
I understand it's a serious situation.
Oh yeah, but I mean, here's the thing: if we don't inject some levity into it, and we don't have conversations like this, we're not going to see progress. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, but what progress is you expecting to see? Because drugs is going to be around forever. My personal belief is that the older you get, the more drugs you're probably doing.
Being more
I mean,
responsible about it, not
The
dying
difference
from it.
between a dealer on the street and a doctor really ain't much other than a piece of paper that's saying they got a degree to give you some more dope.
okay, so you're right, you're wrong. Like the problem, like when you start systematically, and this is something else that doctor at the opioid summit talked about, how they were systematically cutting people back. I have a veteran client. Dude was in an Apache helicopter accident and broke cervical vertebrae. This man is in pain every single day. And they cut him back so much that he's spending a portion of his money to go out to the street and get drugs. So at that point, you don't know what they are, because people are pressing pills these days. That's a big problem we're seeing. We're like, people
Man, I seen that on Wish. They sell
We
pill
just talked
press
about
on the
that day.
Wish.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
That's why.
We're selling pill presses on Wish.
Yeah, they wild. They wild.
They do. And they're pressing them with fentanyl, they're pressing them with all sorts of shit. And you know, it's fucked up, because like, at least with a doctor and going through a pharmacy, it's a controlled substance. We know exactly what that medication is, how much of what medication is in it. There are laws and chemical formularies that have to be followed. So to a degree, it's actually safer to give people the pills from the doctor, because they're regulated and they're
And
safe.
also, you know who to sue, from what batch it came from, and who's
That
responsible.
And let's talk
But you
about
know, you can't sue for none of that shit. You can't sue
people
for
do.
nothing that you get from the
People
doctor.
do.
No,
You can't sue for taking that vaccine.
Big law.
Oh yeah, you can't sue for that, bitch.
You sign off on that.
Yeah, I
there-
thought you
Sign
signed
your
up on all
death
that shit
certificate
though.
on that motherfucker.
So
Hey,
CBS,
that's hearsay, here nor there. I'm sorry, I had to do a disclaimer. The vaccine is still ongoing with people and everything. This is only opinions that we talk about and things like that. It's not wanting to misinform people or anything like that. Go
One
ahead.
thing I would say is that a lot of people are not familiar with the scientific process, and they're actually seeing it living out currently. And that's where a lot of that confusion is coming from, is people have never really gotten a peek behind the scenes of science and how they go through the trials and stuff. The vaccine has actually been in development. That specific type of mRNA vaccine has been in development for 25 years. My ex-husband's sister actually helped develop that. And it's people are really seeing science happening live. That's why opinions are changing. We get new data, and we have to adapt to that data and continue changing. And that's across the board, though. We wouldn't be where we're at with harm reduction if we didn't do that. That's why we send shit down to test, so we know what to expect in our area. We actually have a thing with Canada where we get about Canada, if we hear something is coming in through Canada, we have about a week to 2 week notice to adequately prepare ourselves out in this area to deal with it once it hits our population. And it saves lives. It does. I work with somebody who's on a panel for Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, and we've been tracking drug use throughout the pandemic. And what we've seen is a huge increase in like coke uppers, and it's been more substantial than downers, and that's kind of surprising to a degree, but it's kind of not if you if you're in the field, I guess. It's not surprising to me. I'm in the field and I'm a former addict. So like people are bored sitting around. They want to get up a little bit, you know what I mean? So that they're gonna do some coke. It happens.
Eric Clapton.
And you know, black folks, they gonna drink, smoke that weed, fuck, and just have a funky good time, just to forget about it. But at the end, when you wake up in the morning, you might have a baby on the way, and then your problem's still there.
Yeah, we all that's all of us though.
Okay.
And one thing, so going back
I
to
don't
the
think everybody take drugs to escape reality.
that's a big reason. Okay, so personally for me, it was a control thing. I wanted to be able to say, I know how I'm going to feel. So like it was a huge crutch. I remember the first time I tried mushrooms, I made sure I had a few Vikes for the next day. That way I knew how I was going to feel the next day and I could level out a little bit. You know what I mean? So everybody's, and I also have a nice splash of trauma happening in my background. That's why I'm so funny and I'm awesome. It's because, hey, it makes trauma. You might as well make me funny if you're gonna fuck me up, you know?
Yeah. Hey, you muted yourself.
Back to talking about suing and that we have such awesome harm reduction programs is at one point in time, and like when the opioid epidemic was really in gear, it's actually dialed back quite a bit as far as like the prescription side of it. But the problem is it turned people to heroin, right? Because once they start cutting pills back, pill prices go up. I want to say right now, street value for like a Percocet 10 can be anywhere from $10 to $15 for one pill. Back when I was fucking around with shit, like if you tried to get me to pay more than fucking $3-4 for a perk 10, you were crazy. No way, son, no way. So the pharmaceutical companies actually created Narcan, which is naloxone, and that's what we use to reverse opioid overdoses. They created that and they were getting ready to sell it for fucking profit, you guys. They were going to profit off of selling people, and CVS, Walgreens, Purdue, one of the pharmaceutical companies isn't even operating under the same name anymore. I can't think of it.
Well, don't that only make sense? They already selling you the pill that's killing you. Why not sell you the thing that can save your life?
But
that is capitalism at its finest, though.
It is.
Right.
At this point, the government stepped in and they were like, oh, no. Because at this point, we were starting to realize, like, this is kind of cool in a way. I remember there was a point in time, like, you know, when you go to the hospital now and they're like, oh, what's your pain on a scale of 1 to 10? That was always a question they asked you. But I remember when it became an official part of triage, I had like sprained my ankle or something. And my mom and the nurse at the ER had a whole conversation. And my mom was like, I don't like where I see this going. I see a lot of pressure coming from big pharma to push this. And they actually even know, they knew how to get doctors. This is pharmaceutical companies woo nurses, they woo receptionists, but mostly nurses, because they know that nurses have a huge impact on how people are going to, on how doctors are going to prescribe. You know what I mean? And growing up with a mom that was a nurse, I got a very unique perspective on how that evolved and how that happened. I've gone out to so many dinners from pharmaceutical reps. Like I've gone to the Chop House in Ann Arbor and had a pharmaceutical rep say, hey girls, whatever you want, it's all on this company tonight. You know what I mean? And like they did that because my mom was the clinical nurse manager at the prison. So it's interesting because, like, you know, these companies were getting ready to try to sell something that was going to save lives from something that they helped create. It's been proven that, especially in the Appalachians, like down south, I remember when people were coming from down south up here to Dr. Khan over there. They shut Dr. Khan down over there off the Gulf side. Dr. Khan was pushing some shit out, y'all. For real.
If y'all don't remember that, I know y'all remember that.
He was the dope man.
He was, and Siddiqui was too.
Yeah, him too. Yeah.
You know, like I remember going to a dentist and having some dental work done, and like they wrote me a prescription for Vikes, and I cracked a joke about like, yo, can I get a refill? He's like, put 4 or 5 on there, and he gave me the prescription pad and just told me to put a number of refills on there. I'm like, for fucking real, bro? I don't know shit about shit. You're telling me, okay, go for it, cool. So like, all these big pharmaceutical companies were actually sued by the federal government, and they have to put like Merrick, that's the other one. They don't operate under the same name anymore. They changed names. But they, part of what they have to do now is give Narcan and like do all these prevention programs and all this harm reduction stuff, because the federal government has actually sued them and made them pay billions of dollars for like damage that they've done to the country and the populace, because they were like if you look at the numbers of what they were shipping out, it didn't make sense. It didn't. And like they lied about how about like the addiction factor of it. There was a pill called Opana. Opana was pure Dilaudid, pure Oxycontin, pure hydrocodone, which is what's in Vicodins, and pure morphine. It was called hydromorphine. 4 of the top medications that are on the market right now, and they were all combined in one pill. They actually came up with that pill in the late 70s, early 80s, and they realized how quickly it was killing people because nobody had the tolerance for it. So they shelved that, and they waited until like halfway through the official start of the opioid epidemic. So we would be talking probably 2011, 2012, and I had people telling me it was better than heroin, that they liked it better than heroin, and they were shooting it up and everything. And y'all personally, that was one of the few times that I've actually relapsed since I got into recovery, and I have never been so glad that they took a pill off the market. I kid you not, I was taking 4 10-milligram Percocets and sniffing like 5 or 6 of the 5-milligram Roxys, and I was still going through drug withdrawals.
In
That's
the
how
dope
strong
world,
that
we call that good dope. It brought the motherfucker off the shelf to get that bag. That's that bag.
bro.
Yeah, and then the
Bro.
irony of an addict, though, they'll see somebody die and still want the same thing that killed them.
That was what she
Yeah,
saw.
yeah.
That was what she saw right there.
Well, I
Yep,
can handle
yep.
that. I can do that. You know, hey, they was weak. You know what I'm saying? I do this, I do that. Be 2 dead
Mhm.
people.
I literally I have a very, like, one of my best friends is currently a heroin user, and she will do fentanyl, and this chick is convinced that she cannot overdose, and I'm like, honey, that is not true. You can absolutely, everybody can overdose, but she is so convinced that her tolerance is up so high that she's absolutely convinced she can't overdose. And
Will
it's
she
just
be watching this?
no, probably
Okay,
not.
okay.
I mean, yeah, I'm not naming names or anything either.
Okay.
And her and I have this conversation, and she knows that it's because I love her and I care about her and I want her to be here tomorrow, that I stay on her ass the way that I do. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's hard out here, you guys. It is. It's hard. And once you actually get into that cycle, man, I'm gonna tell you, like, you fucking, the fear of going into withdrawals. Oh my God. I wish I could find an adequate way to describe that. I will still get this like almost cardboardy taste sometimes, just randomly, and that, like, that's why I can't smoke non-menthol cigarettes. It's a huge reason I can no longer smoke non-menthol cigarettes, is because the aftertaste of them is very reminiscent to me of this taste and smell, that is like when you're doing opioids, it actually fully takes over your body's ability to produce dopamine, all your feel-good chemicals. One of the reasons that you have a lot of stomach problems going through withdrawals is because serotonin is produced and absorbed in your intestine. So your body gets flooded with serotonin, which is where, like, SSRIs, it's a type of antidepressant. That has been a key thing in helping people get over drug use, is combining antidepressants with it, because it stops your body. It's called a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, and it stops your body from overabsorbing serotonin and giving you a lot of these really rough side effects. And like something like Wellbutrin, an activating antidepressant, is a huge help, because once you're in withdrawals, you just want to lay there. You don't want to do shit. And I remember, as someone who was selling, and like I never sold people fentanyl or patches or anything, but I did have a couple people who were getting a hold of them. And I remember getting people subs and like giving them my personal Wellbutrin, because I'm like, dude, this will help you. You will feel a lot better than just taking Suboxone alone. And 3 people that I did that with actually were like, dude, I can actually power through this. And they ended up getting clean because of that. And going into recovery, because they were like, wow, you know, maybe I actually, and that's the other thing, is there's a huge inherent tie between mental health and addiction and substance abuse.
Absolutely.
If you can't, there's a program called Jail out in Canton, and I think it's great because they have a crisis residential program where they put people in who are like in a mental health crisis, and they will actually they have a drug with rehab program over on the other side. So you can actually, you have a perfect facility right there to address several issues at one time. And a lot of the people who go through that stuff are very successful once, and sometimes it takes a couple of times to going through that cycle. And before you actually get to a point where you're like, damn, man, you know, like I think that I can I think that I can, you know, I can manage this. It's in a way like, in psych, we say bipolar kind of goes hand in hand with like personality disorders. Trauma, mental health, and addiction all go hand in hand. You cannot separate them. There's no way to feasibly separate them because, I mean, like, you got to have a fucked up mentality, right? To constantly poison yourself. And that's ultimately what we're doing when we're doing drugs. And like, if you, as a former user, I'm telling you, if you don't think we know that, y'all are wrong. We know that. We know we're fucking up in the back of our heads. We do, but we just don't know a better path. So that's ultimately what harm reduction is. We're showing people a better path. We're showing people through like,
Nah, I'm gonna call bullshit on that one, because damn near
Wow.
everybody that grew up and went to DARE and all of that shit, and you know drugs is bad for you, and you still chose to do drugs anyway.
I must concur. I must concur. At 50 years old, you get somebody talk about eating meat, I'm gonna punch you in your face. That ain't my thing. That's your lane. So at 50 years old, I still got the body of a 16-year-old, and it is a choice. You choose to keep killing yourself. I can't feel sorry for you if you choose to keep doing that.
But it's a cycle that perpetuates itself. I mean, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with reality. You can't impose your reality onto somebody else's, right? I mean, we can only see through our eyes.
Yeah,
and I'm telling you,
communication.
from high to low, I do. I've done a lot of piercing
I
recovery.
want you to explain this to me, how
believe it's
you was
passed down
taught as a child. Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, Dave.
I'm sorry. I was asking her, do she believe, is it studies that it's passed down genetically from parent? If your parents are alcoholic, your dad or your mom's an addict.
Absolutely.
It absolutely is. And I say that from experience. Excuse me for cutting you off, love. My mother's a dope fiend alcoholic. No. My brother an alcoholic. Everybody in my family. I saw all that stuff and I said, I'm not wrestling that gorilla. I don't want him. I can't fight him. I ain't getting in that ring with him. That's his pick.
But sometimes
that's usually what we see.
This is going somewhere great.
No.
But it's a choice. I keep saying it's a choice.
Exactly.
It's a choice. It's a choice.
But some folks don't have
You've been
choices.
taught from like kindergarten up into high school that drugs is bad. At some point in your life, you knew that what you were doing was wrong, but you chose to do it
Thank you,
anyway.
brother. Thank you.
Well,
Preach on.
That about
You
crime.
never took that first hit.
What if you have it in, you have the trait to be a pill head? Just saying, for instance, I'm just throwing it out there. Say your parents, you took it, their grandparents, everybody was addicted. You know, they had that shit all the way back to the 20s. So say you get hurt in an accident and they give you some strong shit and you got hooked that way. It wasn't a choice. You made the choice. I mean, you're going to take the choice and not take the pain medicine and get better?
Nah, but see, that's different though. Even with, okay, now let's say you got a family full of teens, but you never seen them getting high.
And that's how they perpetuated that. That's how
now on the same token, it's still a choice. It's still a choice. If they activate it and you found out what it was, you choose to keep doing it. Because I'm gonna say this right here, and then look, everybody on this panel, everybody in the world can kill. Everybody in this motherfucker can kill, but don't nobody
If
choose
they
to
want
unless
to.
they pressed.
Yeah, to a degree.
So,
but
when you put your health on that same level there, you win it.
You're a good, fine, upstanding citizen. You get into a car accident. The pharmaceutical companies lied about the addictive nature of opioids to begin with.
Yeah.
And
But then that gene is open. It's like after that genie, after that lid is off, it's over with.
And
go ahead.
Okay, so I have a friend whose aunt was in a very severe car accident. She was one of the first people I actually knew who got Opanas, and they did not tell her what was up with those. That woman, when she finally decided to stop taking them, was hospitalized because she was going through withdrawals. They didn't tell her, they just said, here, this X amount of times a day. And so yeah, it's a choice. But then we also have to talk about let's really get into it. Being in pain, in severe pain, like the client's house that I'm at right now. This man has been on dialysis since 1987. One of the best motherfuckers and strongest motherfuckers and most positive motherfuckers I know.
For that damn long and then keep the bucket.
Yeah.
Right. But if he goes without his pain medication for a certain amount of time, he will be in so much pain he can't even get out of bed, you guys. That enables him to have a good quality of life. So what's his choice there? Let's be real. What's his choice? Lay in bed?
That's different. That's different.
My opinion is choice is to lay up like a pussy and not get up and do what he need to do. Anybody who knows me from my day know I done flipped, stunted everything, and fractured every goddamn bone like diesel. But yet, but no, it's like I keep all I hear and everybody is what somebody ain't doing. Somebody ain't doing what somebody doing for me. Choose your path.
Yeah. It's the same way you choose to get high, you can choose to
I chose to do what I do.
Sober too.
So that's what. So
my point exactly, bro. My point exactly.
That's the whole point of harm reduction, though.
If a motherfucker choose to, hey, look. If a motherfucker choose to climb into a rich person's backyard to go in their garbage can to get shot at, you chose to do that. Choose to get your ass up and get a job.
Hey, can I tell y'all something though? It's all about who has compassion, who doesn't. Candyman, you seen the rough side of the fucking tracks and jumped out of it. You jumped out of it. And so your perception and your ideology is going to be way different from somebody unknowingly. Everybody's not as smart as you are. You got to remember that. And some people learn at their own paces as well too.
Me all that credit. I do. Me all that credit. I am you, mother. I just choose to do things different. I choose my past. I'm doing ain't going. I go my path, look and listen and watch the things that are winning.
Absolutely.
Bro, you breaking up really bad, really bad. It's like it's got that echoey thing. I just want to let you know. I still want to hear what you guys say, but I'm like,
that's me.
Echoey thing going behind you.
I think that's why I got loud, because the echo getting louder and I'm trying to talk over it.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me try this. Excuse me, y'all.
Yeah, it still sounds like you're underwater over there. But
Is that better?
I agree with the whole everybody got a choice. I understand addiction, man, because I done seen a lot of people be addicted. But how many people you ever see that I'm gonna make the choice that I'll wake up tomorrow, I'm gonna start my road to recovery.
I've seen a lot of people do that. A lot of people.
And in your profession though, in your defense though, in your profession, you see that. You're able to see that. But day-to-day life, we don't come into contact. We don't try to help those people. So hats off to you as well.
And that's part of the stigma that I'm even on here trying to change, is because like if people can't feel comfortable, like we talk about how this impacts our family. You guys know how especially, and like this is what got the attention. The opioid epidemic got attention because it was a upper white middle class problem. And it
Amen.
did that.
And you know what, Jeff? Thank you. No, that's true. That's the real truth because
I'm
when
laughing
the
because your ignorant ass gonna say amen.
hey, look, when crack hit, they didn't have no plan, did they? They was kicking down doors with tanks and stuff like that.
How specifically, Ashley just said something clear today about how POC indigenous populations are in a lot of ways targeted. And you guys want to talk about a short end of the stick? The indigenous population gets fucked hard by the government. They live up on reservations getting fucked up, and they've had everything taken from them.
No, we're gonna give you a casino. We're gonna give you a casino.
We gotta give you a casino. Good job. Thanks. And you have to dress up in a costume to run that casino. So you gotta dress up looking like Pocahontas and shit to even let that casino be popular. Like that's gotta be, and that's a whole colonization thing that I think that I like. Abdul, you know me, I could do a whole thing with you on colonization and how like, look, especially like as a white person, is fucked up because like I see the impact of shit that happens, and I see so many white people who like live in this perpetual ignorance as long as it doesn't affect me and mine. And that's why the opioid epidemic took center stage the way that it did, because this was every fucking family in America almost.
These politicians, they family members, these politicians were falling victim to.
And see, that's the problem with it right there. That show you the system of racism that they got in place now. We don't give a fuck until it's affecting us.
She agrees 1,000% with that. I already know.
Yeah, it ain't about agreeing. I'm just saying, like that's some real fucked up shit.
Well, opinions have agreements and disagreements. But I will say this though.
It ain't okay.
We ain't gonna bring awareness to it, and we ain't gonna change it. That's the problem. And like everyone knows this, I was born and raised on the east side of Detroit.
Well,
you guys,
where was the awareness when crack hit in the 80s?
And I've got friends who like were in that scenario, and they you know, I know people. Some of our biggest advocates in harm reduction are actually a product of that generation. There's a guy out here, Lamont. He is one of my harm reduction heroes, and I hope he watches because I love him. Ashley is another one. I love that lady. That lady does so much for our collective communities: Belleville, Van Buren, Sumter, Ypsi, Ann Arbor. And these are people who work behind the scenes. And like Ashley gets fucking zero sleep, you guys. That woman gets no sleep whatsoever. And she slaves every day to fucking push herself to do more and make our community better and give people access to resources. Like, I helped her put together the Tri-City Resource Guide for people who were getting out of prison and stuff like that. And what companies were like felon friendly. So, I mean, you want to talk about like how we're really going to disable and break down systemic racism. It's about education. It's about empowering people to have this knowledge and say, dude, this is a fucked up system. What can we do to change it? And all the protests and shit like that we have, I've done medic work and stuff. I've been very involved.
May I ask you a personal question?
Absolutely.
What made you want to change your life around?
So I was doing
Sky.
right? And Scott, well, this was even my heart went into an abnormal rhythm. And I remember thinking I should have my ex-boyfriend call 911 and I should go to the hospital. And I envisioned waking up in the hospital and my mom looking down on me with this look of profound relief and profound, thank God you're alive, but oh my God, what?
Right here.
And I was like, fuck, I would rather die than see that look on my mother's face. And I woke up the next day and I was surprised as hell that I woke up and I was driving up and down Michigan Avenue. And I remember looking around, cars around me thinking, nobody else has stuff like this to get through their day. What's wrong with me that I have to? And I went home that day. I broke up with my ex-boyfriend because I kept that. I can't even tell you how many times I was like, dude, can we stop being the house where everybody comes over and does coke all night long? I don't want to keep living this life. He's like, yeah, just giving me lip service on it. And I finally was able to see, and I'll say this, not in like the first few times I took Vikes, I didn't even know what they were. My ex gave them to me. He's like, oh, these are Jesse's gonna fall in love with me pills. And I was young. My dad is a piece of shit, and like I was very attention seeking from
Don't
men.
talk about our dad like that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Bro, when I
I
find
was a
him,
piece of shit too.
I'm telling on him for so much shit for you, okay?
You know, all right, you gonna snitch?
You've been
Okay.
around me for a long time, bro. But like, it fucked me up seeing what I saw. So I was desperately seeking positive male attention, and like I didn't want to push back too much. I was very insecure with myself. I didn't even think I was pretty, you guys. I didn't think I looked good. I literally grew up being told by somebody every single day that I was a fat, ugly, worthless piece of shit, and that I was breathing air that somebody else who was better than me deserves to breathe. And I also, a big part of it was I wanted
As a motherfucker.
uh-huh.
Yeah, and I want to add though, if I know who it was, that same person is the woman I left out of my life and woman of my dreams, and shit happens.
She would have been your nightmares, son. Okay, I feel it. So you dodged a bullet there. Okay, you see how that whole situation went.
Yeah.
Let's not go into that where we're recording.
Yeah. Well, no one watches.
No, I mean you might as
Until
well
today.
go into it.
Until today. No, it's my older sister. She I love her to death, but I was the lightning rod that she struck out at. She stabbed me with a pair of scissors one time. She tried to stab me in the
Shit.
she tried to stab me in the back. Tried to
Was
stab
she
me.
high?
No. And honestly, she emerged bipolar at a very young age in her teens. And usually we see that happen more towards like when your cortex is fully finished developing about age 20, 25, around there. So the fact that that's where that happened, that it's usually a pretty severe case that we're going to see, right? And I love her to death. I do. I would do anything for her, but I can't have her in my life. I can't talk to her. The best that we have ever gotten along is when we were halfway around the world from one another. Bless her. I hope that she has made better choices, and she doesn't choose to take her anger out on people like that anymore. I can't guarantee it.
What I've come to learn is don't nobody fuck you over more than family. God bless their soul.
That's a fact.
Bro, ain't nobody gonna fuck you over more than you let them fuck you over.
Hey,
Don't give it to family. Don't put it on nobody. Put it on. Take accountability for you. Everybody keeps saying what. Everybody in this panel choose to do whatever they done. You choose to do
That's
whatever.
true too, but you don't choose to let somebody just motherfucking stab you with a pair of scissors either.
No, I didn't choose to get the shit kicked out of me.
Abdul, you should. If she'd have got one of them, if she'd have got one of them Harris family ass whoopings, she would have tried that no more.
She would have folded him up and put him in a suitcase and been riding off into the sunset.
That's what got me stabbed. Was I finally started I refused to put up with
her
shit.
Yeah. And you know what? When you fight, they're gonna refuse to fight again.
Take accountability for somebody else's actions.
No. Excuse me. I ain't mean that. I ain't mean that part as far as her sister. That part, no. That accountability, because you can't control nobody's actions.
Exactly.
But I'm talking about as we moving forward, everybody keeps saying what happened, because at any time, whatever we do, whatever we say, we got the right to say no or yes.
You absolutely right. And most people learn to say no after being fucked over so many times.
Right. And that's another thing. It becomes a victim mentality, and you don't know how to break free of that. And I can attest to that, because like literally the first person that I ever was in a very serious relationship with, and I know you know who I'm talking about here, Dual. That man controlled my money. He took he abused me emotionally, physically, sexually, and it took me almost 2 years to finally be like, wow, dude, this is fucked up, and it still impacts my relationships to this day, because like I have triggers where I expect to be treated in a certain way, and I have to step back and say, whoa, this ain't them. You know what I mean?
I will say I'm proud of the person you've become, because you run shit now, so it is what it is.
It is. But I also got to say, I didn't choose to do anything. I could not do anything different. Our mom was a single mom. She had to leave me alone with my sibling while she worked. I used to run home every single day and try to lock myself in the bathroom, and this bitch would slide knives under the door to fuck with me. I didn't choose that. I can only choose how I react to it. And I chose to react to it in a very poor way for a very long time. And I must say too, I've had the same therapist since I was like 13. I've been seeing that man for 20 something years at this point, 23 years. I talked to him, I got his cell phone number. So I was raised in a very mental health friendly environment, you know what I mean? And I had access to the resources, and I would probably be a lot more fucked up of an individual if I hadn't had those resources. So like my mom didn't want us to have trust issues after our dad left, so she kicked my dad out, so she made us go see a male therapist. And bless that woman, because that man is the father of my soul. He saved me countless times and restored my faith in humanity countless times. And I didn't choose that situation. I couldn't do anything different. It's not like I could run away from home when I was 12, 13, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Our black asses did though. And I want to say something too.
I was living in a crack house, so I can't relate.
We didn't have access to the resources that you actually use. You know what I'm saying? And you use it, and we see that it actually works.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But us coming up, we didn't have those type of resources.
Well, the mental health, especially, and I feel so bad for the men of this world, because y'all are told just stay. We're strong men around here. You don't cry in baseball. You got to suffer through it, and that's so fucked up. Especially when once you get like systematic, that's a whole nother scope of me for like the amount of systemic racism that happens and the shit that black men and black women. I love some black women because they put up with so much shit that I can't even imagine as a woman, let alone like adding race to that factor. They deserve all the credit for sure. They do. And black men do too, because like, especially here in America, the shit that happens and the shit that like is acceptable and the shit that gets turned a blind eye to is fucked up and it's wrong. And like one of the biggest things that has happened and like, has like, I mean, we had world, and I'm really kind of sad that like we started to lose some of that momentum from like Floyd. We had worldwide protests, you guys. We had
and I agree, we lost that momentum
in the world, and we should have kept pushing with that momentum. And literally the only fact that's the only reason that his killers and his murderers are being prosecuted right now. Otherwise, it would have been swept under the rug, and we would still have a law in place stating that police officers cannot be held accountable for certain things. And that law is the only reason. And ironic enough, it was because a black man shot a white woman that law even got pushed back. That was the first time that a police officer was ever held accountable. Was a black police officer shot a white Australian woman. I think it was in Boston or something like that. That's the only reason that law even got changed. And that's the only reason, that's what made the prosecution of George Floyd's murderers possible, is because it happened in a reverse situation, or as white people like to call it, reverse racism, which isn't a thing. FYI, fellow white people of the world, that's not a thing. Stop it. Thank you. But because of that perception, that's the only reason that man's murderers are actually able to be held accountable. And I'm getting off topic a little bit, but I'm really not, because like once you start talking about like how people are oppressed, how people are systemically pushed, how education is based off of redlining and other illegal practices where people don't have access to the same education. You guys, I grew up over on the east side. I still went to Grosse Pointe Woods public schools, and I was given a fantastic education because I lived right across the fucking street of Mac, and on the right side of Mac Ave. So I was able to go to Grosse Pointe public schools, even though I grew up over on the east side. And it's stupid. You know what I mean? Like the school of choice thing is good, but it also enables further divisions, because so many people are pushing to go to charter schools, which get different funding. And that's a whole other thing I could get into. But education is really where it starts. You know what I mean? Like, I know Abdul and I had a coworker that at one point was like pretty illiterate, you know what I mean? And I remember Abdul telling me like this individual is like literally, I if it weren't for me, they wouldn't have the job that they have because they couldn't even do a lot of the shit that needs to be done, but they know how to do it because they've seen it done so much, kind of thing. That should be a fucking crime in America in the 21st fucking century, 22nd century, whatever fucking century we're in. That should be a crime that people are still illiterate and they don't have access to an education. Across the world, it should be a crime. But like once there's a Thomas More quote from Utopia. If you suffer your people to be ill-educated and they don't have access basically to the education that enables them to make better decisions, what else is to be said but you first create thieves and then you punish them, you know? And
That's kind of like that's really up there with some shit to have you thinking about some shit right now.
Yeah. Utopia is a good book. I highly recommend everybody read it. Everybody listen to it, read it. Listening to books on audiobooks is still reading a book. Please do. Like it's a fantastic book, and it's true because like if we allow a system that perpetuates these cycles and we don't change it and it can't be changed and it keeps happening and like then we're punishing people for fucking weed. Why is weed legalized now and there are still people incarcerated? That's another thing with harm reduction.
They did it in California to let them out and stuff like that, but it should be like all like federal on a federal level too.
It should be. And if anything, like one of the things that really infuriated me recently was I saw a commercial for like CBD oil and it had a bunch of white people in it. I'm like, y'all got me fucked up. So fucked up. For real. Like there are still people of color sitting in jail right now and you guys are advertising this product on TV the way that you are.
Imagine how they feel.
Yeah. I can't. And I would never try to insult somebody if I could, you know what I mean? But I can only imagine. I think that those criminals should be let out, and that should be how we work towards like use their knowledge. Fucking, we got people making. One of my friends is on the West Coast. This dude is a millionaire, fucking growing weed. You know what I mean? There are people who deserve that opportunity, and who are incarcerated because of weed. White Boy Rick, that whole ass thing. Ugh. Don't even get me started with White Boy Rick. That whole thing.
Look, we finna end this one. I'm finna do what I promised, and you know you're gonna make it do what it do. Great episode. Anybody want to add anything?
Children, don't do drugs, okay?
Okay.
Which are bad, okay? And this is coming from a former person who used a lot of drugs. Man, it's a hell of a ride.
This is my sister from
You
another
ain't the
mother.
only one.
This is my sister from another mother. We've been through the trenches. Absolutely, the real fucking trenches. Like
The real trenches.
yeah.
Wow.
No. But you know what though? But yeah, it's been a great show. I'm gonna leave it be. And hope anybody get it. I'm gonna send it to everybody. We're gonna share this, all right?
Rock out, people. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you guys.
And there will be plenty more.
Damn Skippy.
All right,
All right, y'all have a beautiful night.
Let me off.